Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Cass Crane.
All right. How many of you guys have a teddy bear? Guys, you can be honest. Wow, more guys than girls, it seems. Interesting. Okay, girls or guys, whoever, how many of you have had a teddy bear in your life? All right, what did this teddy bear make you think, or how did it make you feel? Wait, what? Warm? Okay.
Safe at night.
Safe at night. Kind of, you thought of it as something to cuddle with and something cute and cuddle, right? All right. Well, does anybody know how the teddy bear first came about? Or what the original... Yeah? Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I might be screwing up some of the details, but basically, like, Teddy Roosevelt was out on, like, this, out visiting his ranch, and, like, he came across this, like, bear cub.
All right, yeah. Basically, I'm going to interrupt you just because I'm not going to have time for the whole story, and it's kind of long, but... basically, the teddy bear was named after Teddy Roosevelt because once upon a time he had this merciful experience with the bear, and he didn't kill the bear because it was unsportsmanlike. Anyways, this is a tragedy, okay? Because now, whenever we think, or not, maybe not you guys, but whenever thousands and thousands of people think of Teddy Roosevelt, they think of a teddy bear. Instead of thinking of the rough-riding, gun-slinging, elephant-killing 26th president of the United States, they think of a cute and cuddly teddy bear. So, it is my hope that by the end of this presentation, instead of thinking of a cute and cuddly teddy bear, when you hear the name Theodore Roosevelt, you're going to think of the courageous, experienced, badass, man who was a man of conviction, action, and, believe it or not, joy. In 1912, President Roosevelt, actually he wasn't the president at this time, he had been done for about 3 years by now, but he decided he wanted to run for another term. And this really frustrated a lot of people because it would have been, well, not technically, but pretty much his third term. He had already run for 7 years because he came in late, but a lot of people were really threatened by this because they thought he would have too much power. One man in particular attempted to assassinate him. Roosevelt got out of his carriage and was going into the auditorium, and a man shot him, and the bullet penetrated through his speech, through his jacket, through his ribcage, and punctured his lung. And the doctors rushed in and were like, we got to take you to the doctor, we've got to take care of you, and he resisted. He said, no, are you kidding me? I've got a speech to give. And believe it or not, Teddy Roosevelt went up and gave his 30-minute speech in front of thousands and thousands of people with a bullet in his right lung and blood pouring out of his chest. This man was not a teddy bear. There are three things that I think really distinguish Teddy Roosevelt from other presidents and leaders in general. I think the first thing is that he was experienced like none other. The man was well-rounded. I don't think that there was really any other president who was as well-rounded as Teddy Roosevelt, even the founding fathers, and I know that's a big claim. But let me tell you about some of the experiences and achievements that Roosevelt had as, I guess, growing up. First of all, when he was young, he was a sickly child. He was always battling with things like pneumonia and asthma, things that he constantly had to conquer. He read a book about a book a day, sometimes even two, up until he was in college when he was just busy with his schoolwork. He graduated from Harvard, went into politics, and was extremely successful right away. However, he got married, and he got married, however, just a couple days after they had their first child, his mother and wife both died on the same day within about a 6-hour time frame in the same house. And this, as you can imagine, strongly impacted the man and caused him to sell about half of his belongings, take about half of his father's savings, who had also passed away by this time, and run out west, where he hunted wild game, opened up 2 ranches, became a geographer, a map maker, a geologist, and just came away with all kinds of brilliant Wild West experiences. But eventually he had to answer his calling back in politics, and he returned to New York, where in about a 20-year time frame, he was the governor of New York, the commissioner of the New York Police Department, the secretary of the United States Navy, and the list literally goes on and on and on. And then right before running for president, the man started the the Rough Riders. Are you guys familiar with the Rough Riders at all? Okay, basically there was a corrupt regime in Cuba, and the president recruited Roosevelt to raise an army, a voluntary army of about 1,200 men, and it was really cool. Roosevelt actually recruited his own buddies that he met out west, all these cowboys, to go down and introduce the machine gun to a corrupt regime in Cuba. And yeah, they were very successful, and Roosevelt led his Rough Riders to victory at the battles of Kettle and San Juan Hill. So obviously the man is very experienced, and all of this is before he even became president. And you can imagine how all of these experiences would make him a well-rounded man who can communicate with all kinds of people based on these experiences and relate to all kinds of people in all kinds of ways. The other thing about Roosevelt is that he was a man of convictions. But not only did he have convictions, but he was able to communicate and act on his convictions. You know, a lot of us have convictions, but it takes courage and bravery to really take a stand and do the right thing, and it also takes an extreme skill to be able to communicate your convictions in a way that people will buy into them. Roosevelt did that, and particularly as president, one of the convictions that he had, well, first of all, just to prove that point, it was because of his convictions that the man gave that speech in front of thousands and thousands of people with a bullet in his chest, because he had his convictions to share, and he knew that he couldn't let a bullet in his chest, although most people would, keep him from sharing his convictions about the country. A couple particular convictions that he had was that, well, he foresaw America becoming a really powerful country in the next few years, and he had the conviction that with great power comes great responsibility, and he wanted to encourage Americans to begin preparing to take on responsibility, both as individuals in the nation with like a civil responsibility, and as a nation in the world. And it was on this idea that he settled the Russo-Japanese war where he brought about peace between the Russians and the Japanese, and also introduced America as the policeman of the Western Hemisphere. And then also his convictions about nature and preserving the great American lands. And it was because of not Ronald Reagan, Theodore Roosevelt, that one-track mind, because of Theodore Roosevelt that all of these national parks that we have exist. Obviously, he was a man of conviction who was able to act on it, but not only that, he was a man of joy, unwavering joy. As you can tell, as I've told you, he went through some really hard times. His wife and mother died on the same day. He was the president of the United States, and as we all know, presidents do not have it easy. He lost a lot of great friends in Cuba with the Rough Riders, but no matter what, the man was joyful. He had a source of his joy, which he would say was the Lord. And I think it was that joy, that unwavering joy, that made him probably the leader that he was. People saw in Teddy Roosevelt a man who really couldn't be fazed, a man who wouldn't change, who could go through anything and still see hope and still see, I guess, to use the cliche, light at the end of the tunnel, despite circumstances. I honestly think that it's that aspect. He had his experiences and his convictions and his communication skills, but it's that joy, I think, that really attracted people to him. In conclusion, there's one thing that I think we can really draw from Teddy Roosevelt, and that is wisdom. As you saw, the man has countless experiences and all kinds of things where or that caused him to really to have a lot of great insight into life. I'm going to leave you, I guess, with this quote that has particularly influenced me over the years. My hand's shaking a little bit. And I'm just going to read it to you, and then we'll basically close with that, but it's kind of long, so I'm just going to read it. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes short again and again, because there is not effort without error and shortcomings, but who does actually strive to do the deed, who knows the great enthusiasm, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who knew neither victory and defeat. It's my hope that as young leaders, as men and women, that we will be men and women of conviction, but also of courage to act on that conviction, and also of unwavering joy. People who can see amidst hardship and in any situation the truth, the beauty, the hope, the opportunities in all of these situations and really present or exude that joy no matter what.